Now, have remembered that places we've got environmental characteristics. One of that, it does include climate, and other things remembering are the landforms. We can also have soil and vegetation, water resources, minerals, and landscapes. So all of those are environmental characteristics of place. Now, climate is the average type of weather. So it's including seasonal changes over a long period of time. So that means the autumn, spring, whatever order it is, in autumn, winter, summer, winter, spring, summer, etc. That's the seasonal change over a long period. So the climate that they're in is the average of that. Like sometimes we can have hot days and cold days, but that doesn't define the climate. If we have a freezing cold day here in Brisbane, it doesn't mean that we live in a polar area, that we're a climate. Our climate is generally something else. Now, climate, we know, is defined by temperature. So it's the difference between the hottest and the coldest. And also the rainfall, the amount and when it falls within that year. So when you hear of the word climate, what is it that you think of? You might have that associated with Brisbane or Queensland. Or maybe another type of country has a different climate than what we have. So there are different things that do affect the climate. We've got the latitude. So the further north or south of the equator, the colder the temperatures. So remembering that the equator is around the middle of the world. And the closer to the equator, the warmer the temperatures. So the latitude are those lines that are the horizontal lines on our maps that we've seen. Landforms are also something that can influence climate. So mountain ranges can influence rainfall. So sometimes the mountain ranges might stop the rainfall from happening, or depending on which side of the mountain you are, you could have lots of rain. Elevation, so it's the higher a location above sea level, the cooler that climate. So if you're in a high area, just remembering about like Toowoomba, we were talking about that last week. Toowoomba is colder than Brisbane. They're not that far away from us, but they generally have a cooler climate than us. So this map here shows us the world climate regions. We can see that as the title is the world climate regions. This line along the middle, the solid line, is the equator. The line that runs through Australia is the dotted one, the Tropic of Capricorn, and the one just above in the northern hemisphere is the Tropic of Cancer. Now, if you have a look between the two tropics, we can generally see this light blue colour here. And if you look in the legend, it means it's a tropical climate. And you can see that goes all the way around the world in that same area there. Now, if you look at the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn again, you can also see around there is the red or the orange colour, which says the hot arid desert. So they've got those around at the same time. So even in Africa, we've got the north of Africa and the south of Africa has that hot arid desert. We've got our temperate climate, which is the climate that we live in. And then you can see that it's also above, so we're below the Tropic of Capricorn. And above the Tropic of Capricorn, we've got some of those climates as well that is also temperate. Same as well over here on South America. And at the continental is obviously in those big land masses of Europe and Asia and North America. Now we'll go into what these all exactly mean in a minute, but have a look and see that. We've also got our polar ones, obviously, at the polar end, to the north and the south. So I'd just like you to notice that there's a bit of symmetry happening here around our equator in the tropics. Okay, so the tropical climate means that it's hot and wet and it's very humid. So remember, humid is the feeling of like the stickiness that we kind of feel when it's humid, when it's going to rain. The temperatures are relatively consistent throughout the year. So if you've ever gone to north of Queensland, that's a tropical region. So if we look back here, North Queensland here, tropical region, they're always hot. Same with Darwin. Darwin is a tropical region. The temperate climate, which is us, so we have the mild changes between seasons, generally cool and warm, and seasonal rain. So our seasonal rain is usually summer and spring that we've been seeing at the moment. It's cool and warm, so we don't get snow. It's a temperate climate, so even though it might feel colder in winter, it's not a big difference between our seasons. Because if you look at continental, which is warm to hot, and it's often humid summers, it's cold, sometimes very cold, which probably means snowfall during the winter, and the rainfall is relatively consistent throughout the year. So they have like rain probably all year, like during summer and winter. Well, their rainfall in winter is probably snow, but it's the same thing there. Now, a hot arid desert, we've got different deserts. A hot arid desert, which is hot and dry all year round and very low levels of rainfall, and a cold arid desert, which is the summers are hot and dry and the winters are cold and dry. So something that's very important there is that it's dry desert. There's not much rainfall. In Australia, we have two types of deserts. We've got our hot arid desert, which takes up most of the country, and then we've also got our cold arid desert, which is the south. And if you notice, again, with our symmetry, up here through Asia, we've got the cold arid deserts here. And similarly, over in North America, we've got those cold arid deserts there. So it's a bit symmetrical again. And our polar, extremely cold all year round. So it's snow, basically, all year. I think even in summer, it's snowy. So it's not a good place to go swimming. Alright, so that's a little bit about climate there. Hope that makes a bit more sense.